This show is part of the RetroZap.com podcast network.
Our underground network is standing by at the drop zone to distribute.
The transmission is being jammed. Looks like the Empire came out to welcome us.
Attention, Rebel Convoy. This system is under Imperial control. Stand down or be destroyed.
What a surprise. It's Star Wars Sabers and Scoundrels.
Starships.
Carabast.
Yeah. Starships Sabers and Scoundrels, a Scoundrel Special Edition.
Greetings, Scoundrels, and welcome to episode 17 and a half, a Scoundrel Special Edition. On this show, we will be discussing the latest episode, Rebels, Visions, and Voices. As usual, I'm enjoyed by my intrepid co-host, Darth Taxis. Taxis, how are you doing this evening?
What up?
All right. And we have a special guest for this episode as well. If you listen to many Star Wars podcasts, you have likely heard from her before, and she really needs no introduction. Of course, I'm talking about Johnamarie Macias of the WookieeGunner.com, Galactic Fashion, Rebels Chat, Team Kanan, Star Scavengers, and countless other things. Welcome to the show, Johnamarie.
Hey, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
All right, so Taxis, sound that spoiler alarm because we're going to dive into Visions and Voices here, and this is our summary. As Hera is briefing the rebels at Chopper Base in preparation for a recon mission to Lothal, Ezra begins hearing voices and experiencing visions. Maul is hunting him. However, nobody else sees or hears what he's experiencing. Looking for guidance, Kanan and Ezra visit the Bendu. Their consultation is interrupted when Maul arrives. Maul coerces Ezra into joining him on a mission to Dathomir so that they might complete the visions that were interrupted earlier this season when they joined the holocrons. Using a tracking device Sabine planted on Ezra's wrist comm, Kanan and Sabine follow them to Dathomir. After performing a Nightsister ritual, Ezra and Maul complete the visions and learn what they wanted most from when they joined the holocrons. The magic, however, is not without cost, and the spirits of the Nightsisters emerge to seek payment. Unfortunately, Kanan and Sabine arrive at just the wrong moment and are possessed by the spirits. Maul leaves Ezra behind, and Ezra is forced to free his friends on his own. Once Ezra vanquishes the Nightsisters and frees Sabine and Kanan, Sabine retrieves a Mandalorian relic from Maul's cave as the trio plans what to do next. And just for the record, saying Sabine and Kanan over and over real quickly lends itself to being blended into Sakanan.
Well, we all ship it. So.
Right. Okay, so let's start with Johnamarie. What is your, in 60 seconds or less, what was your initial reaction to this episode?
I thought this episode was fantastic. Mm-hmm. You have the callback to Clone Wars with the Nightsisters. You have Maul coming to fetch Ezra to complete this information that they initially unleashed in the Holocrons of Fate, and you have Ezra who's kind of losing it, and everyone else is like, "What's going on?" And I love the fact that Sabine and Kanan team up to try to help Ezra, but instead they end up falling victim to these spirits, and Ezra's the one to help to save them in the end. And it's just a great episode from beginning to end, and it's a great way to wrap up the first half of the season.
That's a good point, because so often we've seen Ezra as being the also with, and now he's the one that this is centered around. He's the one that Maul's interested in. He's the one that ends up having to stand up against Maul. To it, I'm somewhat surprised Maul left him standing, but and then he comes back to rescue them both. And you're right, it's really weird seeing a Kanan and Sabine team up.
Yeah.
Not since the Mandalorian thing have we seen this, right?
Right. We're going to skip around a bit on this episode, but since you both brought up a really interesting point, let's dive into that. As Kanan and Sabine, I think I got it right that time, are arriving at Dathomir, Sabine makes the remark that how many times is Ezra going to trust Maul? And Kanan then retorts with, well, I don't think he does, but he's taking a very big risk on behalf of all of us in order to learn this.
Which is a Sith precept, I might add. Never trust anyone.
Right. But so what do you think of Ezra here, is he? Does he pity Maul? Does he? Is he really just using Maul as an ends towards a means toward an ends, rather? I should get that right. Or is he still tempted by some of this power that Maul has been attempting to lure him with?
I mean, I know a lot of people who would love that third option because they all want to see like an evil Ezra come out of this. But I honestly see it more as he just wants that information to be able to destroy the Sith. That is his whole ultimate goal. That's what he wants out of this, whatever relationship he has with Maul. And in terms of oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. But in terms of trusting him, he just doesn't, not after what Maul did to Kanan. Yeah. After that, I think he's learned to have some sort of distance with Maul and to be able to get whatever he needs from him before something else may happen to his crew. And actually, that's what he ended up doing. He ended up leaving with Maul because otherwise Maul would have alerted the Empire to their whereabouts, to their location. Right. So he had no choice but to go with it. But in the process, he wanted to get some information out of it as well.
That's true. And Maul, I guess I was watching this with my oldest, and she pointed out that Maul almost made the critical error of holding out the one thing that he could call the Empire with, and Kanan could have just swiped a lightsaber across it real quick and stopped everything. But, where would the story be with that? Right?
Yeah.
Right. Here in my hand, I hold this. Oh, well. But yeah. I think it was kind of interesting that Ezra, when he was getting all head befuddled with Maul up inside there, he was about to just lay it out on Maul when he thought that poor rebel soldier, was Maul. There was no Jedi, whoa, we gotta really think about this. He was just ready to kill him,
Yeah, there was no hesitation on his part, for sure.
And so I was kind of like, okay, they're going back a little bit to where he's getting a little darker with things, but I don't know. It still feels like he wasn't touching it as much as he was in the very beginning of the season to me.
Right, and just for clarity's sake, that vision you were reporting when they were hanging out at Chopper Base, and Hera was going through the details of the recon mission to Lothal because they're getting ready to attack that factory. He was seeing visions of Maul and hearing his voice, and then he passed out. And when he recovered, he thought he saw Maul again and attacked a rebel soldier, and it took Kanan holding him back with force to prevent that from happening. Mm-hmm. So I want to tie this into a question about the Bendu, because we see him briefly in this episode. Do you all think this was Maul's doing? All Maul doing with these visions and projecting his voice? I think he attempted to explain it, or did the Bendu maybe have something to do with this? Because he kind of seems to be putting Kanan and Ezra through the paces a bit on his own version of the Force.
I didn't see it that way. That would be interesting to think of, the Bendu kind of orchestrating this meeting between them. But I think it's more of Maul knowing that he has this connection with Ezra and manipulating him and trying to coerce him into trying to, I guess, end it, because Ezra is sort of desperate in ending it. Like he falls to his knees and he's asking, "What's wrong with me?" Yeah. And so I think he was just doing it to know that Ezra would be interested in talking with him if he nags and if he gets under his skin enough. Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting how the Bendu is like, oh, well, there's a Darksider, Bendu away.
Bendu's out, peace.
Yeah, right. That's a good question, Dennis, and I just wonder, I mean, going to the Bendu, and it's sort of like, why did they even have to go to him besides plot development? I mean, did he really reveal? Well, maybe he revealed something. I mean, do you want to see him? That question. Kind of. I'm paraphrasing.
Right, because here's the thing. It was just that I couldn't recall another instance of this type of a power where someone was able to lure someone out by making him see visions and hear their voice. Now, they kind of explained it a little bit with the incomplete ritual with the holocrons, because Ezra ceased that vision before they completed it, which set up everything here. And so they each had some of the other's knowledge. Now, I don't recall Ezra, talking about anything he knew from Maul or suddenly explained discussing that any time after that episode from the season. So I just couldn't help but wonder, what do you think the Bendu thinks of Maul? Because he shows up and it's this little Sithling, former Sithling, and he'd asked Ezra and Kanan, what is it you want? He goes, well, I don't want to see Maul anymore. Well, then don't turn around. I'll leave that out there. What did you all think of that? What would you think Bendu would how would he view Maul?
Well, I got nothing on this one because I'm not sure.
Well, my mom describes him best as a very mischievous, impish character. So I don't think he would have anything much to say when it comes to Maul if he and Maul were to ever meet like that. Maul's not seeking any. Oh, he isn't seeking information, but it's not something that the Bendu can give him.
Right.
And I don't think whereas for Kanan and Ezra, they're seeking his guidance, so sort of like how they would ask Yoda or someone of that nature. But of course, being the Bendu being somewhere in the middle, he can't really give them the information that they seek, but he's just directing them in the way for them to just maybe find their answer that way. Right. But he's not Yoda. He's not going to be this kind of person who would give them the fortune cookie that they seek. Yeah.
Well, it's funny that you would mention Yoda because, Dennis, you said that you're not sure if you've ever seen the whole vision and voice thing before, but I would remind you, in Empire Strikes Back, Obi-Wan appears as a voice in a vision. And it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition because Maul's kind of the anti-Obi-Wan.
I like that point, Taxis, but to me there was a clear distinction. Obi-Wan was essentially dead and was a Force ghost. Maul is not. Maul is lurking around the galaxy and projected, because he clearly wasn't there. He was someplace else, and he projected his voice and his appearance and made Ezra see things. Now, again, this is a unique situation. We've never experienced the holocrons being blended like they were this season before, and so I'm imagine that the story group and Pablo Hidalgo and those folks could write all kinds of interesting things that come from this. But it was just a thought I had because there was a lot that was new. Speaking of things that were new, or old, we get back to Dathomir. The Nightsisters are back, and Maul takes Ezra to the cave where there's that Nightsister altar and explains to him that they're going to complete this borrow some Nightsister magic, and they're going to complete this ritual. And in looking around, he sees the Mandalorian niche there in the corner. Yeah. I'm assuming, Johnamarie, that you love that.
Yes. I'm a big Mando fan. Yeah, it was great seeing that Mandalorian paintings, and then even the script on the wall was Mandalorian. So there was just really cool things. So if you pause, you'd find something cool about it.
Why did he have the mural of Satine there?
The mural of Satine, I would say it's connected to Kenobi. She is someone who is important to who was important to him, and he considers that a victory. He killed her, and that was a big blow for Obi-Wan, and I think he thinks that as a trophy. That's a trophy to him.
Yeah, but it's almost a little like Thrawn with the artwork.
Oh yeah, that too.
It's a little connection between them. I mean, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but that's one thing I thought of was like, it's he's kind of collected the art. That was really cool. That was a good reveal. And Dathomir to me still looked nice and creepy in this.
Yes.
I thought that was great. Oh, how awesome was it when they walked into the cave or the temple and you saw like the bodies, like they used to be statues holding up everything, but they were broken off in the middle. You know, I thought that was a nice touch. I thought that was cool. The whole scenery, the whole imagery was great.
Yeah, very Maul. They were all, they kind of reminded me of Maul when he was like,
wow.
Well, the picture of Satine was not the only Mandalorian artifact that was there in that cave. We also got to see the Darksaber emerge. Yeah. And John, I really liked your point about the picture of Satine, because I think when you couple that with the Darksaber, it really demonstrates how he conquered that planet. He killed the rightful ruler, and as they pointed out in Rebels Recon, I don't know if either of you had a chance to see that yet for this episode, but I think it was, I'm guessing it was Pablo, was talking about that Darksaber is a symbol that dates back to when the Mandalorians were conflicting with the Jedi, and now it is a symbol of authority and a symbol of power, and that whoever wields it, it can get the attention of Mandalorians. So, not only was, I combine those two, that, that was a symbol of when he conquered Mandalore, and he still has that saber. So, we'll get back into that one here in a second.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back to that. Yeah.
So, okay, so they've arrived on Mandalore. I missed this, but I've seen some people talking about it. They complete the ritual where they drink the potions, and I was reminded of the scene in The Princess Bride, where the man in black arrives and is, and they're having the test of, or the contest
intellect,
of wills, right?
Yeah.
Which bottle of poison are you going to drink? Well, clearly I can't drink the ones in front of you. But Ezra is not about to drink first, and so he's making Maul drink, and the Maul does, and then insists you have to drink every drop. And Ezra doesn't trust any of this. But some people had mentioned that so they start experiencing this vision, and their eyes turn green. So they're drawing on the spirits of the Nightsisters, and then they see some things. Most notably, they see a desert world that has two suns, and which is a continuation of what we heard from earlier this season. And then they also see Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it answers both their questions. That it is that's how to defeat the Sith, and it is also Maul's goal. And interestingly enough, the last time we heard Maul talk about this, when they started that ritual for the holocrons back early in the season, he was hoping for hope, to see hope. And apparently that's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah. He has a very, very twisted view of hope, though. I guess he was trying to think of something that would make him happy, and I guess that would be it. Getting revenge on someone who essentially brought him down from where he was and had him eventually led to Palpatine discarding him to the side. So I guess that's his view of hope, of having something to look forward to.
Yeah, that's a great question, because oftentimes we just take hope on face value as being a positive attribute, but really it is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? I mean, he is hoping to, what we pretty much assume is to exact revenge. I don't think he wants to go there to Kenobi and go, hey man, sorry.
Or conspire with him, because I've heard some people say, maybe they're going to recruit him in a way. I'm like, no, I don't think that's gonna happen.
No.
Interesting, but no.
I agree. I thought it was interesting though that Ezra. Okay, way back when, first off, I was like, okay, why is it taking so long for Maul to find Kenobi? For one, okay, and for two, when we saw the very first couple episodes this season, right? Now we know, because he didn't have the full information. Now, two, I found it interesting that Ezra doesn't see Luke; he sees Kenobi.
Yes.
Because I had thought that it was Luke that he saw in the beginning, and he wasn't sure what he was seeing. That's the key to defeat the Sith, but really, it's saying Kenobi is, which is odd.
Well, okay, yes, this is a good point, and I've thought about it some, and I'm not certain this is a Force vision. They don't even know it's Tatooine. The word Tatooine never gets mentioned in this episode. They just see a desert world with two suns, and so he sees Obi-Wan, and that's the key to defeating the Sith. So we've got an incomplete vision, and I think that's par for the course when it comes to Force visions, isn't it? Which is, it gives you just enough information to hang yourself with, in this case. So he needs to find Kenobi. Well, why does he need to find Kenobi? I think we all know, as longtime viewers of this saga, that it's really Luke that's key to defeating the Sith in this situation, but Kenobi's looking after him.
Right, and Kenobi's the one with the information. Like, if you go up to Luke, Luke's not going to know what the heck is going on.
Right.
Luke doesn't even know what the Force is right now.
Yeah.
The Force?
Let alone how to destroy the Sith in the process.
Right. Whoa. You're going a little too fast for me here. Let's start with, what's this thing I'm holding in my hand, and which way should I point it? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so they've had the vision, and I think we've all been excited about that. And Kanan and Sabine show up and probably get possessed by these Nightsisters. And so they get Ezra and Maul get chased out of the cave, and that is the limits of their power, which kind of reminded me a little bit of The Last Crusade from Indiana Jones, because the power of the Grail didn't work beyond the temple, but neither here nor there. So Maul is now encouraging Ezra to come with him, and together they can go on this quest and be friends and brothers. Taxes, you and I have been talking, mainly it's been me, I admit it, about where is Ezra on his journey to the Force? Is he prone to falling back to the dark again, like he was at the beginning of this season? What do you all think? Is he going to be tempted by this again, or was this his last refusal to the dark side? That, no, I'm not going with you, I'm looking out for my friends. And the only other thing I'll throw out there is his desire to destroy the Sith something like Anakin's desire to save Padme. Is this ultimately something that might propel him to cross that line?
I don't think so. Mainly because I don't want him to, but also because Ezra's coming at it from a different angle. Like in this episode, he was willing to sacrifice himself 2 times with getting that information for the rebellion and for the galaxy, essentially. And the second time was when he was telling the spirits to let go of Kanan, that you should take me instead. So he's coming at it at a different angle. He's willing to sacrifice himself for whatever cause that will help in bettering the galaxy. And I feel like he's definitely going to have temptations in the future. And I mean, we have those kind of temptations in a daily basis or weekly basis or monthly, depending on who you are and what you do. But like minutely. For him, it being Force sensitive, he's definitely going to have those type of temptations. So I don't think it's the last, but it's definitely important because he did it without having anyone else tell him to. That this was wrong. This was something that he understood, that he cannot trust this person. He cannot trust his individual, and that he needs to be saving his friends first.
I thought it was really interesting that Maul actually used Jedi philosophy. And you could even go into the concept of Christ being tempted 3 times in, Christian literature. Maul actually says to him, you must let go of the things that, paraphrasing, you hold to, right? He actually tells Ezra to do that. Like, hey, what's wrong with you? I thought you were a Jedi. Let go of this stuff. And but Ezra refuses to, and when he said we could go as brothers, my oldest pointed out he misses his brother in a weird, he misses his brother in a weird way. Maul's lonely, which is,
he sure did lord it over him though when they were together back in the Clone Wars.
That's true.
Well,
So let me ask you this then. Let's flip the question a little bit. Why is it that Maul is so obsessed with Ezra? Why is it that it has to be Ezra that he's going to take as an apprentice? Is it just because that's the only young Force user he's come across, or is there something about Ezra that he wants, that he likes?
I think there's something about Ezra that's interesting to him. The fact that he's able to pick up quickly. Like there was a moment at some point after the Bendu left when Ezra had figured out something, and Maul was yet again impressed by how quickly he was able to figure out the location. That's what it was, the location of their base, and he's impressed by what he's capable of becoming, of what he's able to do with his abilities and his power, because he is a powerful kid. He knows how to maneuver and manage on his own, and he does it well with Kanan. So, imagine that with Maul, if he were to fall to that path. So, like, I think he sees a lot of potential in him for the bad side of the Force, for that kind of Force wielding abilities and whatnot.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting to me that Kanan didn't know what Ezra was seeing, sensing, feeling in the very beginning of the episode. You know, it's almost like in this episode they're showing like a stronger bond Force-wise, maybe through manipulation of the holocrons, which for some reason they collected all those pieces, I might add.
That's true. They were sitting on the Ghost in Ezra's room, weren't they?
Yeah, they sure were. It's weird. I just wonder, it's like for some reason he almost has a stronger bond with Maul in this episode than he does with his master, you know?
Well, is that simply because they have that shared experience of having merged the two holocrons together, and they did exchange some of their conscious thoughts?
Yeah, probably so.
I don't, because at this point I really think Ezra trusts Kanan and relies on Kanan far more than, because he was continually rejecting Maul. He went along with him, but he did reject him time and again in this episode. He only relented to Maul's demand to go when the whole beacon got brought out, then he made him drink first when they were getting the potions, and then he rejected another offer to be his apprentice on this. So
in a way Ezra's figuring out how to be a Sith. Like, you follow what your master's teaching you, but you shouldn't trust him all the way.
You really want him to go to the dark side, don't you?
I don't know, man. Well, his eyes look good all in yellow and red.
All right. Well, one last question then about Maul and Ezra, and then we'll move on to other things. I'm going to make it a two-part question. Sorry. Let's assume Maul were to try and recruit Ezra again, and if Ezra went along with it, does Maul really desire brotherhood and friendship, or is he just trying to use Ezra as a means to an end?
The latter. I mean, because he was, and this was pointed out to me by my mom, he was willing to leave Ezra behind, and she pointed out that they needed a blood and flesh, that sort of payment, and if he had to, Maul would have left him so that he could have gone with with the information he needed, and Ezra would have been the payment. But thankfully, Kanan and Sabine showed up, and he's like, okay, another opportunity. I don't have to kill him this time around. You know?
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. I thought he was going to be like, yeah, they need payment. You stay here. I'm going to go prep the ship. You know?
Okay, you kind of anticipated what my follow-up question was, because I lied. I was going to ask another question. So you think it was basically to satisfy the Nightsisters that Maul left him behind, and not, you're going to get twisted by this experience and be more willing to cave to my influence later?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I didn't think of it that way. Like not being able to save Kanan and Sabine, and him being tortured by it.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna have to revise my opinions now.
I only thought that way simply because it seems like the Sith take a long view. They will. Maul is not as good at recruiting apprentices as Palpatine was, which is through a ton of patience and kind of keeping what it is that you want just out of reach. And then when you most desperately need it, offer it. And Maul is like, no, be my brother, be my friend. We'll go on a great quest together. Let's do it now.
We'll bench together. It's all right. you know?
And so, maybe he was a strong sell with, okay, fine, you don't want to do it now, you go deal with this and we'll talk again later. It's a possibility. I was really concerned at the end of the last season and the beginning of this one that I didn't want to see Ezra fall, but that we were going to see it happen. And I've become less and less convinced of that with every episode so far after the premiere.
I still hold hope.
An evil kind of hope, see?
All right, so they go on their merry way. Maul leaves. Ezra is very clever and manages to force push Sabine, wielding the Darksaber, outside of the cave and frees her. And then, as Johnamarie referred to earlier, convinced the Nightsister spirits to leave Kanan's body because they really wanted him. And then he took his lightsaber and the Darksaber to the altar, which got rid of the Nightsisters. So he saved the day.
Anybody see the Mother Talzin spirit?
No, I missed that one. That was there?
I thought I saw it. I thought I saw those little things up. You know how she had those like spider leg looking trappings behind her? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
With her costume?
Yeah.
I thought that was the main one talking. I thought I saw like those, her basic robe, get up. But
well, I'm gonna have to go watch it again because I missed that.
Yeah, I might be wrong, but I could have sworn I saw that. But I was looking for somebody else in particular as well. You might say.
Oh, gee, I wonder who that was.
Yeah, I know. But I didn't see her.
Do you think Asajj Ventress would have been in there?
No, I don't think so. Given the way that she died and she did something selflessly, and I think she was freed from the torture of being like Maul, being discarded to the side and growing up the way she had. I think she was freed from that. She had and she was accepted by her sisters in a very peaceful way. And I don't think she was part of that. I think these group of Nightsister spirits were the ones that were killed by Dooku, the way that the way that they had died in that episode, in that arc.
Do you think that's the temple that she went to?
Oh, a good question. I'm not sure. Because
Maul actually references they get their power through this water. And that's what he's pouring.
I remember that. I have to go back to that.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was the same temple, like the same pool of water that she had descended into in the book.
Maybe. Yeah.
Connections. Question about the Darksaber. Okay. I love those runes that appear on it. Do you think that the Darksaber was the thing that actually destroyed the altar?
I don't know. I don't know that it necessarily took the Darksaber. I think if there's runes on that, which I didn't pay much attention to, I think those are probably some Jedi's markings or Mando markings. And
it's kind of brilliant because it just floats down, like they appear and disappear and they're changing like on the blade itself. And I didn't remember seeing that in the Clone Wars depiction, but this one, when he's fighting Sabine, when she's using it, you can see him just clear as day right there. And
man, there's a lot of detail in this episode. I did not catch all of it, but I to answer your question, Tax, is I don't know that it explicitly took the Darksaber. I think Ezra just hit it with everything he had. And if he could have thrown a force push in there on top of it, he would have. But the two sabers did the trick. So, but speaking of the Darksaber, Sabine takes it with her. Which was pretty cool. And so let's revisit that in a second because that's going to lead to the next part of our conversation. Normally, we kind of got into the habit of grading these episodes. Taxus, I'm going to let you go first just so Johnamarie can see how you do it.
Okay. Well,
and then...
Yeah. Go
ahead.
Well, okay. In the spirit of soon to be Christmas, and in the spirit of A Christmas Story, I'm going to give this an A plus. So 100 million. That's what I'm giving it. It blew my mind. This was a great episode. I love the continuity. I just can't find something to pick on it. It just had me enthralled, the entire way. So yeah, I'm there. 100.
Okay. 100%. John Marie, what do you think?
I'm going to give it an A+ as well. Add all those pluses in there. I loved the fact that they started off connecting it to what happened in the previous episode. They're going to check out that factory on Lothal, potentially attack it. There's a subtle string that connects all of the episodes, and I really liked that from this first half of the season. So that final episode really was the cherry on top of the cake, really. So I really enjoyed it, and it definitely gets that grade from me.
I'm giving it an A+. I think it's about a 97, which is the only reason I'm giving that is because I love this episode, but I liked last week's just a little bit better. An Inside Man with Callus and Thrawn and everything that happened there. And I think, and since I gave that one a 98, I'm giving this one a 97, which is still a really great grade.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I think we're all in agreement. It's an A+ episode. The reason why I cut the conversation off with the about the Darksaber is that Sabine leaves with it from the cave, and I want to kind of get into two things here for the second half of our conversation. I want to talk about what our favorite moments from the first half of the season were, and what we kind of think is going to happen, and what we're looking forward to seeing in the second half of the season. But since we're already talking about the future, let's go there. If you got a chance to see Rebels Recon, I mentioned it earlier. They talked about this Darksaber being a symbol amongst the Mandalorians, that you can use it to get the attention of the clans and make them notice you, because it's this item of power, and it goes back to when the Mandalorians were fighting with the Jedi, and they took this weapon from the Jedi, and they specifically said Sabine now has their ability to get their attention. So where do we think this is going? We've got this going on, and we now have got Obi-Wan Kenobi potentially showing up in our future, and we've also got an ongoing war with the Empire and an impending strike on Lothal, and of course whatever it is Thrawn is going on. So what is it that we're looking forward to in the next half of the season? What are you all hoping to see?
More Mandos. I mean, there's so many pieces on the game board, where so many things are happening all at once, as it should be. I mean, it's a big galaxy. There's a lot of things happening all at once, and one of those things I hope is more of a. I hope we actually get to Mandalore. I've been wanting to see Mandalore. Ever since the show started, and Sabine was mentioned as being a character in the show, so I really want to see how the planet's been these past couple of years, and then just see Sabine try to wrangle up the clans with that saber in her hand, because of its meaning and significance. So I need it badly.
Okay. So when I saw her turn around and look at it, and to me, there was like a look on her, like, I know what I'm doing by doing this, and should I, and because even Maul said, why don't you ask your Mandalorian friend, and she could explain it to you. She picks it up, and I looked at my daughter and said, she is the Mandalore.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. Yes, that's what I want.
Yeah, you're right, Taxis. She had to consider that. What it meant to pick up that saber and carry it with her.
Oh, I just gave myself chills.
It's not just a weapon; it's a responsibility.
It's a title. Yeah. It's nobility. It's you are declaring that you are the leader of the Mandalore. The Mandalorians.
You're putting a target on your back when you carry that weapon.
Well, yeah. Everybody wants the guy at top, right?
Well, Pre Vizsla had it. Maul took it from him, and now Sabine's got it. And
I might say rightfully. She probably rightfully has it. I'm thinking.
Yeah, I'll be anxious to see.
House Vizsla.
Right. Well, how about you, Taxis? What else are you looking forward to and hoping to see in the upcoming second half of the season?
Okay, I hope to see Obi-Wan. I'm kind of hoping not to see Obi-Wan in action. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. It's clouded as the future. And it's just, if we do see Obi-Wan in action, I don't think it's going to be... I I don't know. I just feel like it's not going to be critical to the storyline, to the main storyline, to the Skywalker saga. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and here's what I have to say about that. You and I had a conversation earlier this year, where James Arnold Taylor was kind of interviewed about Obi-Wan showing up in Rebels again at some point in the future, and he cleverly sidestepped the whole thing by saying, it would have to make sense because he's supposed to be in hiding, and they would have to be there with a purpose. And then you and I talked about it, I was like, well, we just don't see what the purpose of bringing Obi-Wan to be in this story. It would just be complete fantasy. There's now a reason for him to be in this show, and I'm on board with that. I would love to see the Maul storyline come to an end, and it would be very fitting if Obi-Wan had some sort of role to play in that.
Yeah.
Whether it is defeating him in a duel and giving him that one last chance at mercy that Maul doesn't take, and then, is saying something eloquently about his poor choices leading to this result, or finding peace in the Force or something like that. But that, I think, could be an incredible episode.
Or Aunt Beru drowning him in blue milk.
No, I don't want to see Aunt Beru.
Okay.
Come
well,
on.
I was taking a twist,
All right. What else?
Well, previously, from the beginning of the season, loved the Battle Droid episode. Love the fact that they're trying to acquire proton bombs. And I kind of thought this, and I forgot to mention it, Dennis. I was wondering if the reason they're trying to acquire proton bombs is so they can remanufacture them as proton torpedoes. Because they're not talking about getting proton torpedoes, they're talking about getting proton bombs. But then in the beginning, when they're loading up the ships, the droid, the Imperial droid, he's
AP5.
like, AP5, thank you. He's saying, like, whoa, what are you loading up here? We've already got enough proton torpedoes. And Sabine's like, no, we need more boom, So I kind of like those little connections. Like you said, Johnamarie, it's, there's little strings going through all this, right? What else in the future? I'm kind of with you on the whole Maul ending thing. I'm a little perplexed as to how this is all going to fit into the whole... Yeah, and I feel like it will. But, okay, I'm looking forward to seeing X-Wings. That's what I'm saying. So we know they're coming. I just don't know. Are we going to roll up into Rogue One at some point with this?
Well, that was also...
like it.
That was touched on in Rebels Recon as well. And they were saying that once Rogue One is out at the end of this week, that they'll now have an opportunity to show what's going on in Rebels, how that ties in and leads up to what's happening in Rogue One.
Good.
So I'll add to this. I like that you brought up the proton bombs. I think they've been getting those without explicitly saying so for this attack on Lothal. That this is all part of that operation, and what seemed like disconnected, sometimes disjointed episodes in the after the first couple this season really were leading up to this bigger fight. And it really feels like we're in the middle of a story arc now with the an Inside Man and now Visions and Voices, and because everything is with this backdrop of the impending attack on that factory in Lothal coming. So I'm looking forward to that, and I hope when they get to it, it isn't resolved in an episode. That this, that they have to break through whatever Imperial presence in space, and then that proves to be a challenge. And then once they get down to Lothal, the attack on the factory is its own type of challenge.
Yeah, very Clone Wars feeling. Yeah.
Right. And then, we're going to have Thrawn behind the scenes.
And he's expecting them.
Yeah. And so, we may have some disasters for the Rebels in store as well. I hope not. I hope they get away and they score a victory. I can't help but think of the crawl to A New Hope, where the Rebels have just scored their first victory, which I think we might be seeing in Rogue One, and now thinking that what's going to happen on Lothal is not going to be all that great for them.
Right.
But
in fact, it might end up scattering them, and maybe we'll have like storylines with the characters doing their own thing for a while. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. So, Johnamarie, what was your favorite moments from the first half of the season so far?
I really loved the Imperial Super Commando episode with Sabine and Ezra just flying through on her jetpack. I mean, that was just one of my favorite scenes. And and the last battle. I mean, that was pretty cool with Rex and Kalani going at it, and then both of them joining forces to fight off the Empire. I mean, that episode was just, I think Pablo was the one to describe it as like playing toys from a toy box in a way.
Right.
And it was just a real treat, and it's one of my favorite ones to just go back to and watch.
Maybe I'm sorry if I'm going to butcher the droid's name, Kalani, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Perhaps he'll be brought back as a counter to Thrawn's intellect and strategy.
That's what I wanted. I was so sad when he went off on his own in the end.
Me too.
Oh, but we'll never know. We don't know. So
we might.
Have to wait
Hopefully,
and see.
I don't know. How we do. We'll see. I have hope.
So, Taxis, was there any other moments from the past half this season that you wanted to refer to?
Dark side Ezra. More pushing at people and machines.
I still can't get over, when he took over that ATDP pilot, and oh man, that just crushed me.
Well, then later he's sitting there lounging in the Ghost with the Sith holocron just open. He's just chatting away like, teenagers do, hanging out. And I was like, what are you doing, young man?
Darkside.com. Show me your secrets.
See what I have to put up with. For me, I think my favorite part of this first half of the season, beyond the premiere episode, was An Inside Man. I loved seeing Callus out himself as Fulcrum and all the possibilities that could come from that. I also just thought the Star Wars action in that episode was at the height of its game. It was better than anything we'd seen so far, from the speeder chase at the beginning to the escape at the end. Sneaking around in stormtrooper outfits. They just hit so many Star Wars points with that episode. So for me, that's kind of been the highlight of the season so far.
Right,
and that's why I graded that one just a little bit higher than this one. But this episode was great too.
Yeah, that last one felt actiony Star Wars. This one felt Clone Warsy Star Wars. To me. Yeah,
this really was an episode that struck so many areas of fandom. Yeah. And especially Clone Wars fans and prequels fans from all, and comic book fans, because there was repercussions from Last Son of Dathomir and other things from the comics and the books, even that came to a head in this episode. So. All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Johnamarie, thanks so much for joining us.
Really this was a lot of fun. Thank you.
No problem.
Can you go ahead and remind our listeners one more time about everywhere they can find you online?
Sure. So you can find me on Twitter as @BlueJGuys. That's blue, the color blue, JAIG, and the word eyes. I can't even spell that. EYES. And you can also find me at theWookieeGunner.com. That's Wookiee with 2 E's. And I have several other podcasts that you can listen to, and they're listed all at my website.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, and that's going to about do it for this Scoundrel Special Edition. If you want to reach us on social media, we are at SCubedPod on Twitter. Darth Taxis is at Darth Taxis, and I am at DJKVER2. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/SCubedPod. We love getting your email, and we'd love to know what you thought about this episode of Rebels. You can send your mail to us at SCubedPod@retrozap.com. And if you'd like to support us, we'd appreciate your review on iTunes. We haven't had one for a while, and we'd be very grateful to get to read one soon.
Yep.
So with that, any final thoughts, Taxis?
Yes. Hey, Johnamarie. Have a happy Rogue One.
Oh, you too.
All right.
High five.
Happy Rogue One, everyone. May the Force be with you.